Not one, but three gentlemen to give the command to start engines, including Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer. Here's the starting grid for today's race. Gilles de Ferran, the new track record holder. His team won here 2 years ago, but he was only 13th in the morning warm-up. He'll start alongside Scott Pruitt, a winner earlier this year on the streets in Australia. He was third quickest in the warm-up. Row 2 will be Roberto Moreno. For the third time in 4 races, he out-qualified his teammate Michael Andretti. Alex Zanardi will be alongside, quickest in the warm-up, winner of the most recent race on a road course in Long Beach, California. Row 3 will be Dario Frankitti, the leading rookie qualifier and second in the Rookie of the Year standings. He'll be next to Michael Andretti, a 2-time winner and the defending champion here in Detroit. On row 4, Greg Moore, who scored his first career win last week in Milwaukee, and Mauricio Gugelmin, who's been running at the finish in all 3 previous races here on Belle Isle. On row 2, Brian Herta, second quickest in the warm-up. He finished 9th here in 1994 in his first ever start on a road course. And Mark Blundell, who equaled his best career finish of 5th here last year. Row 6 will be Bobby Rahal, winner of the first race on Belle Isle in 1992. Paul Tracy was to have started alongside, but he is withdrawn due to injury. Row 7, Jimmy Vasser, the defending series champion, who hopes to tie the record for consecutive finishes at 25. Next to him, Raul Boisel, who has 2 runner-up finishes here in Detroit in 92 and 93. Row 8 will be Parker Johnstone. His best finish this year came on the streets of Long Beach. And Al Unser Jr., although he's run every race in Detroit, his best finish only a 4th in 91. Row 9 will be Richie Hearn, second quickest of the 7 drivers making their first start here on Belle Isle. Andre Ribeiro, making his 3rd start, will be next to him. Row 10 will be Patrick Carpentier. The rookie has scored points in 3 of the last 4 races and leads the Rookie of the Year standings. Next to him, Max Pappas. Again, he's the fastest qualified Toyota-powered driver. Row 11, Christian Danner of Germany returns to the series. His last start here in Detroit was 2 years ago. Walter Salas, the Brazilian rookie, will be next to him, only his 3rd start on a road course in the kart series. Row 12 will be Juan Fangio II, who finished 18th in his only previous start in Detroit, and his teammate P.J. Jones, his best career finish, a 9th place, came here a year ago. Row 13, Adrian Fernandez, who just missed the podium with a 4th place finish here last year, and Michel Jourdain Jr., who returns after an early crash last week in Milwaukee. On row 14, Art Meyer, making only his 3rd start of the year in the PPG Kart World Series, and Hiro Matsushita of Japan in his 6th start here at the Raceway on Belle Isle. We'll take a quick break. The field is on track, warming tires and engines. We'll be back for the green flag here on Belle Isle. Stay with us.
The ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix, brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. Miller Lite, it reminds you that anything can happen at Miller time. Toyota Motorsports, our minds are always racing. And Valvoline Durablend, the #1 selling semi-synthetic motor oil.
Back live high above Belle Isle in the Detroit River on an absolutely beautiful day to go racing. Danny Sullivan, we've talked about the course. Let's take a closer look at it.
Well, this course is very tough to pass on at the best of times. It's narrow, there's short straightaways, but what we have here is some dangerous spots on where you see the green and the red. Those spots are dangerous spots to pass, but they're popular. The green ones are some good places to take a chance on, and that's where you'll see most of the safe passing go on. If you're in the green and red areas and you make a mistake and don't get by, you're in a lot of trouble.
2.1 miles around, 14 turns. We have 77 laps of racing scheduled. Let's get down to Jackaroo.
Bob, we've said it so many times, but one of the stories today, again, will be fuel. Not how much, but how you manage it. Now, all the teams, you'll hear on the onboard radio sometimes, they'll say, go to position 1, go to position 2. What they're doing is reading off of these telemetry off the computers and trying to manage their fuel. Now remember, things are a little different this year because they only have a 35-gallon tank versus the old-fashioned 40-gallon tank. So all this fuel management will come into play today, Gary Gerald, as well as another story.
Yeah, you talk about management of the fuel department. Management with tires is going to be absolutely critical in this race. Last year, to get rid of some of the bumps here, they've had a grinding process to flatten and even out the racetrack. Consequently, it's a more abrasive surface now, and it's been chewing up tire wear. Well, to get optimum starting position, the soft compound, what is known as the option, was used by virtually all the drivers in the field in qualifying yesterday. But now, because they don't get as good tire life, they want to go back to the primary tire, the harder compound that'll give them more durability, more life. So we're virtually expecting at the first opportunity for all these teams on pit road, they'll change from the option to the primary, to the harder compound. They've got to manage the tires if they want to stay up front. Bob?
right, thank you, gentlemen. We also have the hottest weather we've had through 3 days. Here's a look at our race analysis. 2.1-mile temporary street course. The race length, 77 laps or 161.7 miles. Michael Andretti, the defending champion, who got underneath his teammate on a drying track a year ago, beating Christian Fittipaldi to the flag. The pit window, 25 to 28 laps into the race. Our stories will be following track position. It is simply everything at this race. Only twice in the last 9 years has the winner come from outside the top 3 starting position. We've talked about tires, and fuel will also be a concern.
Well, fuel's always a problem around here, especially if you have a lot of green racing, and there's a very small window, and with this tire situation, it's going to be doubly difficult.
The field is lined up side by side on a very narrow racetrack. Gilles de Ferran in blue and white alongside Scott Pruitt. The green flag waves were underway. And they remain side by side down into turn 1. Oh, and we have a problem. Someone lost the nose. There's Arndt Meyer in the dark blue and white car, and it's one of the Team Ganassi target cars. Alex Zanardi's nose and front wing lie on the racetrack. A gap from Michael Andretti back to Greg Moore. There's Jimmy Vasser in the red and yellow machine. He appears to be okay. Let's take another look down in turn 1 as the field comes through.
Oh, he got up on the curve there. That was Frankitti up on the...
And now we have Adrian Fernandez nosing into the tire wall. And with it, a full course caution comes out. The signal from the corner workers, the car is broken.
That's the problem around here with a narrow racetrack. If they go in there, he's in a dangerous spot, and they can't quickly get him out of there and safely. So they've got to go full course yellow.
Here's a look from overhead now, looking for Zanardi. He is that red car. He touches Dario Franchitti.
Oh, and he goes back into the inside wall and knocks it there. Dario Franchitti was up on the curb. They touched, turned him sideways, and he nosed in on the wall on the right-hand side.
And you can see the nose did not just come off at the attachments. It was sheared off by the force of that crash. We'll be back with more live from Detroit in a moment.
You're looking at the damage done to Alex Zanardi's car, and Alex Zanardi, it knocked you right out of the race. Suspension damage, front nose. Tell us what happened out there.
I don't know. I don't even know who hit me, but it's not simply disappointing. It's sort of desperation when you're out of the race.
We're watching the replay here as we come through, and it looked as if, as we take a look one more time from high above, Dario Franchitti gets you sideways.
I mean, it's bad when, you know, when you're out of the race for somebody else's fault, and it's very bad because we are going for this championship, and it's understandable that people is trying to win races, but you know, first corner counts like the last. I won a race last year at the last corner, and I cannot blame somebody for trying to make a position in the first one, but really today we go out from this event with our tail in the middle of our legs, so I'm pretty desperate right now.
Bob? Alex Zanardi came into this race third in points, just 2 points ahead of a tie between Greg Moore and Scott Pruitt in fourth place. Danny?
Well, that's always a tough spot at the race. When you come down, you've taken the green flag, it funnels into a narrow corner. Everybody's trying to make sure they don't lose position to somebody else. Michael Andretti was on the outside. Dario Franchitti dove up the inside. Unfortunately, it's close racing. He touched Zanardi there, turned him a little bit sideways. That's all it takes, and he was in the wall.
And there you see Adrian Fernandez's car. He too found the tire wall later on that lap. This is the fourth time in 9 races at Detroit there's been a yellow on lap 1. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Raceway on Belle Isle. Restart on lap number 5. Gilles de Ferran leads Scott Pruitt, Roberto Moreno, Dario Franchitti, and Michael Andretti after separate crashes have taken out both Alex Zanardi and Adrian Fernandez in the opening laps of today's race.
Boy, that's a frustrating time for Adrian Fernandez. Those guys have been struggling with that Lola, get taken out on the first lap.
Hey guys, one of the things that's happened already with that lengthy caution period, Scott Pruitt, who you ride with, has determined that they may, and I say may, stay with the optional tire throughout the day. The conventional wisdom up and down pit road was that once you had your first pit stop, try to go to the harder compound tire. But the conversation right now between Pruitt and McGee, hey, we might want to stay with the optional tire.
Jack, I think that's going to be the decision all day long, depending on the number of yellows. If they keep having yellows with guys sliding off or whatever, they're going to stay on that option tire.
Danny, if I can interject for a moment as well, we were just talking with Al Spire of Firestone Racing. They said we are not even mounting the primaries. We feel that our option is solid. So if we see the change, it may be on the Goodyear side. We've talked to crews that say they'll do that. Firestone guys right now that we just inventoried say, no, we'll stay where we are and what we qualified.
You ride with Roberto Moreno in what may be his farewell performance for this season. Christian Fittipaldi, whom he replaced after Fittipaldi's big accident in Australia, appears to be ready to test the car next week and perhaps drive in the next round of the series in Portland, Oregon. Now we have a yellow flag from the flag stand. Double yellows means a full course caution, and we understand the reason is debris. There it is.
Boy, that's a lot of debris. Now this, oh, well, it looks like though it's just, I hope that's just paper and foam. It's right there at turn 8 at the end of the back stretch. But boy, these guys, if that's something that can cut their tires, I don't know what the material is. Somebody said it's from a braking sign, one of those ones that are hanging there from the fence.
There you see it shattering on the road. These signs are hung on the fences at 100-meter differentials to give the drivers some sense of depth perception as they approach the corner to judge their braking distance. One of them has come off and laid styrofoam all over the racetrack.
But if that's a material that can cut a tires, everybody's got a problem because everybody went through there.
Danny, that type of material though actually is like a plastic type material. It's almost similar to what you would find as a packing material. You see it in art stores all the time. It's kind of a fiberboard.
Right.
It shouldn't cut a tire at all.
Okay, thanks, Jack.
But how about getting that debris into the radiators and raising engine temperatures? Coming up Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Central on ABC's Wide World of Sports, the Valvoline Professional Boxing Series featuring a light heavyweight championship bout, American Virgil Hill against Dariusz Miklaszewski, plus from South Africa, the Raid Galloise, the Human Endurance Challenge, next Saturday at 4:30 Eastern on ABC Sports. Now there's one of those braking signs that we've been talking about hanging from the fence. And perhaps it's not a surprise that one gets ripped off the fence. When these cars go by in the aerodynamic trim they use on this racetrack, it's like a shockwave. We're positioned right next to the racetrack, and the building shakes every time they go by.
Well, I agree with you, too, that if that gets up inside the radiator, it could cause a problem. But look at the size of the pieces. They're so small, I don't think you could get enough of it in there to cause a serious problem.
Kart safety crew, one of the many tasks they perform throughout the weekend, including rescue, first aid, and what have you. Right now, they'll have custodial chores, although you can see that the track has been substantially cleared by the field coming through, even at slow speed.
Bob, one of the other things this does is it gives a lot of time for the yellow. Fuel and tires really helps them in this situation.
You ride with Scott Pruitt, already a winner this year, and he's a man of varied interests and accomplishments, both on and off the track. We recently spoke with him about his long-standing interest in the visual arts. Scott Pruitt's racing career spans more than 2 decades. During the long hours on the road, he found the inspiration to make home an even more inviting destination.
I draw, I create things. A lot of the art in my home I've done. I've even done a whole house. That was one of my dreams, was to to build a house from, I mean, basically from a lot. So I created a house and picked everything, all the slates and granites and you know, what the interior structure was going to look like and how everything was going to be and how it was all going to come together. And then actually took it one step further, which actually has become a new love of mine, which is landscaping. I've really gotten into, and it sounds funny, but I spend so much time on planes. It's given me the opportunity to read a lot about landscaping and plants and, you know, annuals and shrubs and trees and et cetera, et cetera. And I actually worked, I have 2.3 acres at the house that I just built and actually did everything. I mean, picked all the plants, the ones that go in the sun, the ones that go in the shade, the ones that bloom in the winter and the summer, and picked everything and really created a whole landscape. And actually have started a small landscape business on the side.
These are exciting times for Scott Pruitt and his wife Judy. We understand they are expecting. Congratulations to them both. See the field lined up behind the safety car. We expect a green flag this time around. And if you're scoring at home at the tire competition, it is Goodyear, Firestone, Goodyear, Firestone, Goodyear, Firestone in the top 6. DeFerrin, Pruitt, Moreno, Frankitti, Michael Andretti, and Greg Moore. Now Jack Arute has more on Dario Frankitti, who collided, you'll recall, with Alex Zanardi at the first corner. Jack?
We checked very quickly with Carl Hogan. He's been in radio communication, says Frankitti says the car is fully intact. They're not at all concerned. They're going for it.
And they'll have that opportunity shortly. Gilles DeFerrin leads the field up Sunset Drive. 2 corners, and they'll be headed for the start-finish line. Let's listen to how Scott Pruitt handles the throttle chores of the run-up to the green. Gilles DeFerrin able to pull away slightly as we go green on lap 9 of 77. Over that slight rise in turn 2, the cars hop sideways. Turn 3, where Jimmy Vasser hit the wall with the left rear on Friday. Dario Frankitti looking very racy this weekend. He trails Patrick Carpentier 26-5 in the Rookie of the Year chase. Right now, Frankitti runs in 4th and Carpentier 16th. Michael Andretti, Greg Moore in the blue and white, followed by Mauricio Gugelmin.
Bobby Rahal taking a look inside there in that blue and white Miller Lite car.
That's Mark Lundell just ahead. Turn 11. Turn 12. Short straight coming up. Takes about 3.5 seconds. And this is one of the longest straightaways on the track.
Right there is where Michael Andretti went off in that qualifying attempt yesterday. 2 corners from the flag.
Well, what a qualifying session in the run-up to this race. It's a street circuit, so naturally the rubber builds up over the course of the weekend. And it's usually the last man to get a clear lap who sits on pole. Michael Andretti took a run at it, but he had to get around Bobby Rahal at a critical part of the racetrack. Then he hit the tires. See Rahal's record here in Detroit. He won this race in 1992, still working on a string of non-finishes, and has run well over 70 at this, not non-finishes, but non-wins, that has run to more than 70 races. Turn 7, on to one section of the backstretch.
Now look at him closing here. He's taking a look up the inside, but he can't quite do it. That's so fast there. That's 177 miles an hour. Into a very quick left on the brakes and a tight right-hander. Now they're in this very tough section here. Believe it or not, right in there, doesn't look that fast. They're doing 120 miles an hour right there. Tight right-hander out onto a short straightaway. And this just shows you how few spots there are to pass. You're that close, you even feel that little bit quicker, but you've got very few opportunities to actually get up underneath that car and take a pass on it.
Great view from our Honda Helicam. Rahal close up slightly under braking.
It's a very quick section. Again, almost 180 miles an hour over that little rise you're talking about. Down in here to turn 3. That's a quick right-hander.
Now, next year, that right-hander will not be there. They will go straight down that road, which happens to be called Central Avenue, then make two 90-degree corners and rejoin the track at turn 5.
Right over there.
Whoops.
Oh. That looks like Andre Ribeiro.
Ribeiro, whose teammate Fernandez is already out of the race. Andre Ribeiro, in the second Tasman Motorsports car, has backed it into the tire wall.
And you can see the skid marks. See them there, the black marks on the concrete, right across there. See how many different surfaces we have there? We have concrete, then just back beyond that is asphalt.
Each surface with its own level of abrasion and grip. We have another yellow flag, another full course caution here at the Raceway on Belle Isle for Andre Ribeiro. The race leader is Gilles de Ferran, and we'll be back live to Detroit. Welcome back to Detroit. Tonight on ABC starts with a brand new episode of Second Noah and America's Funniest Home Videos, followed by the ABC Sunday night movie Without Consent, starring Jenny Garth. That's all tonight on ABC. There's the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron's view hovering over Belle Isle. Ever wonder what the inside of a Goodyear blimp looks like? That and many more questions about all the Goodyear blimps are answered on the Goodyear website at www.goodyear.com. Pay to visit sometime. There's the scene of Andre Ribeiro's spin into the tire wall. Cleanup still underway. Let's get down to Gary Gerald.
And an interested observer trackside, and it's good to see him back. Leaning out of the back of the Newman Haas scoring stand, Christian Fittipaldi. Tell us how the rehab and the recuperation is coming after that devastating crash in Australia early in the season.
No, everything's going just fine. I had my bottom screws removed last Thursday, and I should be back in the car on Tuesday and Wednesday testing. If everything goes okay, then hopefully in the car officially by Portland.
Now, when you say you're going to be testing, where will this test take place, Christian?
We're running the Mid-Ohio kart test, which is going to be an open test, and I think we're going to have a lot of teams out there. So in a way, it's also going to be good because I have more drivers that I can compare against, and I can see how competitive I am in the car. And if the leg doesn't fall, then I'll be back in the car for Portland.
Are you apprehensive at all? Are you concerned about this test?
No, actually, I'm very happy that I have this chance. I think all the sponsors and the team have been really great with me, and I'm really looking forward, and I'm pretty confident that I can get the job done in Portland.
Well, that'll be 2 weeks from today. Hope we see you in the race car, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Jack?
Well, Gary, we're talking to the brain trust for Scott Pruitt, and that's Jim McGee, who trails George Vignotti in terms of wins by just 1. But with this amount of caution, when do you begin to look at this as possibly a one-stop race, Jim McGee?
We got a little way to go to make it a one-stop race. Right now, we're just kind of getting a feel for the mileage and looking at, the situation with the tires. So,
how is the situation with the tires?
Tires look good, but that's going to determine a lot because you may not be able to go with just one stop on these tires. They're wearing pretty good, in some cases, although our tires, the Firestones, have been doing a hell of a job.
Now, for the layman at home, if he was trying to keep track of it kind of the way you do the numbers here, it's my understanding that a lap under yellow equals how many laps or what part of a lap in a green flag condition here?
Probably about 3.5 laps in a green flag condition, 1 lap under the yellow.
Guys, do the math. We're getting ready to go back to green, too.
All right, thanks, Jack. We are on record pace, but not the sort of record that we wanted. 9 of our 13 laps have been run under yellow. The record for number of yellows here in Detroit is 6, set last year. This is our 3rd. Now, there's Andre Ribeiro, who was pulled out of the tires. He is underway again and nudging it back onto the racetrack.
Well, but look at that left front right there. That is damaged. He's slid into there. He's obviously damaged it. He thinks he can get it back to the pit, and hopefully you can. In fact, you can see right there underneath that suspension was bent, and he made a smart move. He just pulled off there. I'm surprised they didn't tow him around and spot that, but his day is done.
So Andre Ribeiro is out of the race. Here's a look at our running order after 13 laps. Gilles de Ferran up front. Scott Pruitt follows, along with Roberto Moreno, Dario Franchitti, Michael Andretti in the 5th spot. Greg Moore behind him in 6th. Mauricio Gugelmin, Jimmy Vasser, Ryan Herda, and Mark Blundell, the top 10. Zanardi joins, Ribeiro, now shown as -2. But you know as well as we do that he is out of the race. He joins Alex Zanardi and Adrian Fernandez, who went out on the 1st lap. Up Sunset Drive through turns 13 and 14 comes the field. And up to speed they go once again. Gilles de Ferran with a quick couple of car lengths on Scott Pruitt as we go green. Over the bump, hopping sideways through turns 2 and 3. Amazing to stand behind these cars in that corner complex and watch them change direction going away from you.
And of course, they're doing that all at 130 miles an hour through there as well. This is a very physical track. And you see right there, Michael Andretti's on board. See how close he has to come to that right side, to that right front wheel. It only takes a fraction of a mistake and you've hit something.
You can tell by the way that steering wheel jerks around. Even though this track was ground down, 20% of it ground down to smooth the track, take some of the bumps out of it. It is still hard work on the arms and shoulders. Over 24 individual up or down shifts for the drivers. Lots of heavy braking. And now Scott Pruitt right up behind leader Gilles de Ferran. There's Michael Andretti back in 5th. The top 5 runners have opened up a bit of a gap over 6th place Greg Moore. Flashing across the start-finish line to complete lap number 15, Jack Arute.
Well, Adrian Fernandez into the tire barrier out of the race. How frustrating has this season been for your team?
Very, very frustrating, and it's sometimes it's hard to find motivation. But you know, I've been in this situation before in my career, and it hasn't been easy to get where I am. So this is just you know, another building year. We have to keep fighting with the Tasman team. It's just a great team. I have a great guys, and unfortunately, we have this big problem with a lot of chassis. And when you qualify so far in the back, you have to try everything, especially here in Detroit, to make as many moves as you can at the beginning of the race. And that's what happened. It was just not enough room in some of the corner there, and got tapped a little bit from behind. I got into the wall.
Look forward to seeing you in Portland.
Thank you.
Boy, and for a team like that, it's when you're that frustrated and you're trying to make something happen. Now both of their cars are out. It's a great team. Those guys each had a victory. Andre Rivera and Adrian Fernandez last year. It's very frustrating.
I talked with car owner Steve Horn over the weekend. He said, if you think negative things will happen. We're going to think positively about this season and see what we can do. Good luck to them. Right now, we have a top 5 breakaway. Gilles de Ferran leading Scott Pruitt. Keep in mind, 2 years ago in Cleveland, these two had a big coming together that neither has completely forgotten. Pruitt was running off the lead lap at that time as de Ferran came through. They got their signals crossed and collided. And there were hard words afterward. Michael Andretti drawing back slightly. Mario Frankitti, the 4th car in line. Looking strong. The only rookie in this group of 5 up front.
And Bob, Mario Frankitti is getting excellent fuel mileage. He's been back and forth with Team Hogan, and they say stay out there, run your kind of pace. We might see him take a look at the possible one-stop race if we get some more caution.
All right, thank you, Jack. There is Frankitti. Cross of St. on his helmet, I have been advised, along with the Italian flag.
I'm glad you got that right.
So am I. No more international incidents. On Sunset Drive, still running nose to tail, and now Greg Moore begins to draw into the fight as well behind Michael Andretti as they sweep through turns 13 and 14, basically just one long right-hander.
Right, and you don't know what's going through a driver's mind right there. He might be saying, hey, I'm going to play this a little conservative, be easy on my tires, hopefully be able to make a run at these guys at the end of the fuel window. Gilles de Ferran has a different mindset. He said he's got to stay out there in front. He'd like to stretch it out a little bit.
There's Mauricio Gugelmin running in 7th place. He's got Jimmy Vasser. Vasser, the series champion, still looking for his first victory this year, just behind. Then Brian Herta is behind Vasser in 8th place, followed by his team owner, Bobby Rahal, in 10th. Mauricio Gugelmin has been the best qualifier based on qualifying average thus far this year. Ride with Vasser.
Now watch him when he comes down in here. There's a big bump. Boom, boom. Right there. Over those bumps. That's really tough because you're trying to brake in there. And you're doing 180 miles an hour when you get there. Even this right here, this left-hander, believe it or not, he's doing about 120 miles an hour through there.
What an athletic exercise. And the cars look fairly elegant considering all the violence within. As you look at the numbers on the battle for 7th, Gugelmin to Vassar, and how it's fluctuated over the last few laps. Exhaust gases rushing into the turbochargers at 750 miles an hour, spinning the impellers up to 100,000 revolutions per minute to make more than 850 horsepower. And to contain that on a tight racetrack like this is quite an achievement. There's Al Unser Jr. shown in 14th position right now, working lap number 19. His teammate Paul Tracy, the points leader coming into the weekend, is out of the race. So the Penske team's hopes of their 100th victory ride with Little Al. Been a tough season for Al Unser Jr. thus far. A proud family heritage, a great history in the sport. He has had, I believe, 4 DNFs this year, including one a week ago in Milwaukee when the gearbox gave out. Richie Hearn runs behind him in the 15th spot. And then Patrick Carpentier, our leader in the rookie standings, driving for Tony Bettenhausen. He is 16th right now. Here's Parker Johnstone with Raul Boisel just behind him, and then Unser Jr. 12th, 13th, and 14th. To top speed as they flash down Sunset Drive through the start-finish area. Almost an amphitheater effect right here as you see the full grandstands all around. Pit lane at the bottom of the picture. There's the exit.
But I can tell you, having done it myself at 180 miles an hour, you're not thinking about an amphitheater. You're thinking this is pretty small, and I can't make a mistake in here or it's going to be a big mistake.
Like trying to thread a needle at 150 miles an hour.
See this concrete in there? See all that black on top of the concrete? That's very rough in there. Come out, you hit the asphalt. It's very hard to get traction in that area, and it is severely rough.
These views from high overhead give you a great feel for the speed as the cars rush along the roads here on Belle Isle. A busy weekend here in Detroit. The Tigers are in town. The Stanley Cup has just finished. The ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix continues. We'll be back. Back live, flashing around the raceway on Belle Isle. The ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix continues. 21 laps complete. Now here is the real-time telemetry on board Gilles de Ferran's Honda. Full force on the brakes. Look at that speedometer climb whenever he gets a bit of straight track in front of him. Acceleration line shows you relative position of the throttle pedal. And you can see there's very little 100% throttle section on this racetrack. They're feathering it through every corner.
You're absolutely right. There's very few places where you can use all the power. That's why I said in the top of the show that you don't really need power. You need great handling here. Now they'll get almost 180 down in this area. Hard on the brakes. You see his head jump in the cockpit right there. It shows you how big a bump that is.
Gilles de Ferran leads from his second pole of the season, his 4th career pole.
This is an incredibly physical track, especially with somebody like Scott Pruitt sitting right behind you, because there's no chance for relaxation anywhere. You're always shifting, braking, or turning the wheel. See how hard he's decelerating in there?
Gary Gerald has more on Gilles de Ferran.
Interesting in the early stages of this race, everybody knowing that this is a race where you have to dictate patience as a driver, particularly up front. Derek Walker's in that cheerleading mode on the radio frequently. Good job. Nice job. Stay with it. Just encouraging his driver all the way around. They like the way the car is handling. Also, 2 of the contenders right behind him located at this end of the pit for the Luminosity team. Moreno, he loves the way his car is working. Michael Andretti says it's a little bit loose on entry into some of the corners. They may make a wing change for Andretti on the first pit stop.
Green flag pit stop for Brian Herta. Got a nice hole in. That's Michel Jourdain Jr. just behind him. You see Herta not yet quite up to full speed on cold tires.
Not only that, Bob, he's got a full load of fuel on, so the other car's a little bit lighter.
And you can see a little bit of that rubber buildup offline. They call it the marbles, and it is absolutely treacherous if you get on it.
Well, and we saw that, I believe, in 1993 when I won the great Nigel Mansell got up on the marbles and lost it.
Bobby Rahal is in, Herta's teammate. So this is obviously a part of a team strategy that both drivers are following. Jack Arute.
And this is a standard pit stop for Team Rahal, the same that happened to his teammate Brian Herta the lap before. All they did was change tires. Now remember, guys, they're on the Goodyear tires. And taking a cursory look at the tire wear, it looks like they may have had to come in not for fuel, but for tires. I'll get back to you.
Bobby Rahal also gets a hole in traffic as he comes back onto the racetrack. For Brian Herta, this is a bit of a home race. He hails originally from Warren, Michigan, although he now lives in New Albany, Ohio. Now notice the numbers on Bobby Rahal's last pit stop, 31.677 seconds. That was the stop from the blend line at the beginning of the pit entrance until he exited the pits. And that is critical information rather than just the stop itself. Scott Pruitt is slow and approaching the pit entrance.
That is not a normal pit stop. He's got something wrong here.
Pruitt heads for the Brahma Sports Team Pat Patrick Racing pits. Jack Arute is there.
This is definitely unscheduled, and it's an engine problem for Scott Pruitt. Ford powered. Scott Pruitt, they're going to have to take the cowling off. He is not at all happy about this. We'll have to wait and see. They are not sure as to what the problem was, but they did radio that it is an engine, and it looks like now they're going to go for the distributor and the spark wires, the spark plug wires. They're going to have to make a change there. One crew member has grabbed them. They look like coat hangers, and they'll have to take the first set out, but this is going to be a long stop for Scott Pruitt.
Pruitt sits in the cockpit as his team goes to work. Meanwhile, up front, the laps begin to tick away for Gilles de Ferran. 25 complete of 77 scheduled. We're already at the 1/3 distance. We'll be back in just a moment.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? When an Indy car runs on an oval, it runs with the two rear wheels locked together and turning at the same rate. But when they come to a road course, they use a differential that allows those wheels to unlock, so when you go around a tight corner, the outside wheel can turn faster than the inside. Now, a racing differential is adjustable, so you can either tighten the preload or you can release it, so that when a driver gets his foot back on the throttle, it locks those wheels back up again. Now in the past, to adjust this, you used to have to split the gearbox, taking the back half of the car off, including the suspension, and it took a couple of hours. But new for this year, Reynard has made an adjuster that you can get to from outside the gearbox. So now a driver can come into the pits during practice, the mechanics can press this in and make an adjustment on the actual pack or the clutch pack in the differential. It's a very simple device, but it has saved the mechanics all kinds of time.
For the race leader, Gilles de Ferran. Everything routine, he rolls away, 11.6 seconds. Excellent service from the Derek Walker team. Now, Bob, that came at a really critical time because he had just become up on the back markers, and they were going to hold him up because they were racing for position. So that was a key stop for him.
A well-timed pit stop for Derek Walker and his man Gilles de Ferran. He ride with Roberto Moreno, who is now on point, chased by Dario Franchitti, Michael Andretti, and Greg Moore.
He's now coming up on that same traffic that Gilles de Ferran came upon.
There's Franchitti in the silver and deep blue car just behind the red machine of Moreno. First and second. Hiro Matsushita and Arndt Meyer just ahead. Matsushita will be first to be caught by the leaders. What happens here? Moreno's diving down to go into the pits.
What happens here, too, is if they start passing that slower traffic and they get offline, it can be tricky with all the marbles out there.
Gary Gerald.
Boy, you can see a lot of buildup on those tires, particularly on the right front. New one's already in place. We'll see if they make a wing adjustment. They were talking about it. No indication of it. He's down and rolling. 10.7.
And Al Unser Jr. enters the pit lane just behind Roberto Moreno. Meanwhile, Dario Frankitti, the rookie, moves into the lead of a race for the second time in his short career.
And his rear tires really look like they're grained in the middle. The back tires are really grained there. That means he's using those tires hard and getting heavy wear.
12.8 second stop, at least the stationary portion of the stop for Al Unser Jr. But he was pitted out of the pit lane, and he's able to get back out quickly. Michael Andretti runs in second place, lapping slower traffic. And Greg Moore just behind him. Mauricio Gugelmin in third, going around Matsushita. And Jimmy Vasser wasting no time in fourth, chasing Gugelmin. Andretti is in from second place on lap number 31.
Newman Haas team in action now for Michael Andretti, a two-time winner at Detroit. He was saying that the car was a little bit loose on entry. They're going to the primary tire from the option. There's a minor change at the front. 12.7 on my clock for Michael Andretti, and gone.
Andretti at the 60-mile-an-hour pit lane speed limit. Sharp right-hand turn, and his teammate goes by as Michael Andretti comes back on the racetrack. There goes Richie Hearn in the red and white machine. Michael Andretti back up to speed. We'll be back to the Detroit Grand Prix after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
A rookie here at Detroit's Belle Isle, Dario Frankitti, after leading for several laps, has brought his Hogan entry onto pit road. Now remember, he's staying with the optional Firestone. Someone has hit the wall. Let's go back to Bob.
It's a Richie Hearn in turn 11. You can see from the tracks, he spun it in rear end first.
Oh, and is that really going to help Greg Moore there? Because he had not made a pit stop. Everybody else pitted under green. He's going to get the opportunity to come in under yellow.
And something interesting is happening here as you look at Dario Frankitti completing his pit service. The leading cars, the first cars to pit, were the Goodyear runners. The first 7 cars when that yellow flag came out were all on Firestone tires. As you look from high above at Richie Hearn, whose Lola is backed into the wall, and a run of tough racing luck continues for the young racer from Nevada. Here's another look.
Oh, he just loses it going into that left-hander there and backs into the fence. And that was Michael Andretti in the black car that just went out of the screen. He was lucky there. He got it a little sideways, trying to stay away from him.
There is Hearn talking to the corner workers, but the steering wheel comes off. He is done. And we have action in the pit lane. Race leader Greg Moore is in. There's Mauricio Gugelmin from second place, pitting just behind Moore.
Now, this is the longest. This is the guy that has gone the longest without a stop. Greg Moore, remember, of the leaders. And this caution is very advantageous. Gary, let's check in with Parker Johnstone's pit stop.
Parker Johnstone started 15th and battled his way forward. He has a nice stop. And like the other Firestone drivers, they stay on the option softer countdown. They don't make the switch to the primaries as we have seen the Goodyear drivers do.
There you see Michael Andretti with Mauricio Gugelmin just behind him. Let's take another look at what happened to Richie Hearn from Michael
He's going to go into this next left-hander. He's going to get sideways right here. Just get sideways. Look at Michael. He gets it crossed up too, just trying to stay away from him.
And with the sound of his own heartbeat in his ears, Michael Andretti continued on. Now there's Dario Frankitti, and the crew is having a problem with the fuel hose.
Oh, this is a disaster for him. They've got a real problem there.
Couldn't get the car down and serviced in quick time. A costly pit problem for Dario Frankitti, but he is back out, and we'll be back to Detroit in just a moment. Right, but coming up next on ABC Sports, the first round of the International Racing Champions. 12 identical cars, 12 of the greatest racing drivers in the world from Daytona International Speedway. Kart stars Al Unser Jr., Jimmy Vasser, and Alex Zanardi will be in the field. Stand by for that immediately following our racing here in Detroit. Now there you see Richie Hearn's accident scene. Floating overhead is one of America's most enduring corporate images, the Goodyear blimp. They worked hard last night helping with ESPN coverage of the Stanley Cup Finals. Tonight they are back in the air over Detroit, giving us some beautiful views of the Detroit Grand Prix. There is the centerpiece of the Detroit skyline, the Renaissance Center, and nearby Joe Louis Arena, where the Red Wings are probably still celebrating their victory in the Stanley Cup. Jack Arute.
Bob, this is a dry brake system for Dario Frankitti's Hogan entry. Now, when they inserted this into the car to make the fill, they couldn't get it uninserted, and they are not sure. They don't think he even got a lot of fuel in. And here's why. Do you see the little butterfly inside there? They're not sure what the problem is, but they think it's a faulty dry brake system, and they're actually right now without any ability to refuel until they figure out what the problem was.
All right, thank you, Jack. Our race leader is Greg Moore with 36 of 77 scheduled. Presently in the books, all of the top cars have pitted. We'll be back in a moment. Accumulation of waste rubber off the tires. Talk about a line that's hard to miss, and officials are trying to do something about it.
Well, they're trying to sweep this up. Those marbles, they call them marbles because if you actually get on them, they're just like rolling off of marbles, and it's very difficult to pass. And of course, with these tires running the soft compound, they're throwing off more rubber than normal.
We are under a full course yellow after Richie Hearn backed his car into the wall. That is the reason for the yellow right now. And officials are taking this opportunity to clean up the racetrack. Down to Jack Arute.
And Bob, that's a big break for Carl Hogan and his team and Dario Franchitti. They have determined what the problem is, and they're going to call Dario back in. They did have a problem with the dry brake fuel filler system. Here's the other part of the problem. They only got a half a load of fuel in. At only 35 gallons on board, he only got about 17 to 18 gallons. He's going to have to come back in again, and as he comes onto pit road, this means sacrificing all of the track position that he had earned. So he'll have to go back out on the racetrack, way back in the back of the line. Now let's see if the dry brake works this time. Yes, so far, but we've yet to see the fuel pop up in the overflow, signifying a full tank. Now it is. Gary, let's go to you.
Well, here's car owner John Della Penna working with a Lola chassis that's really been kind of a handful. It's been very difficult for you this season.
It has been, unfortunately. It's a little bit tough to work with it, and you know, it's very hard to tune, but we've been trying to do the best we can. We're kind of in it with the car for the year, so we got to do the best we can.
And that, of course, is the owner for Richie Hearn. We wish him well at Portland. Bob?
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Meanwhile, a great rookie battle is developing. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll be back after these messages and a return from our ABC stations. ABC, it's Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary, followed by the ABC Monday night movie, The Temp. That's all tomorrow night on ABC. Here at the Raceway on Belle Isle, we are under a full course caution. Greg Moore is the race leader, although the first car behind the safety car is the lapped machine of Hiro Matsushita. This could be a very interesting restart.
Well, Hiro's been in this position before, I'm sure. I mean, he's a very professional driver. He'll do the right thing, and you know, with the way this thing's set up, all he's got to do is get off the line there. If he gets off the line, well, gives them a place where they can pass, they'll be okay. The problem is he's got about 8 or 10 guys right behind him, all battling for position. And this is a tough place to get by even the best of times.
Matsushita runs 1 lap down, in danger of going 2 laps down in the 21st position. The man behind him, Art Meyer, young German, in the last car in the serial. The last car still running on the track is in 22nd position. The car's out of the race. Richie Hearn, Scott Pruitt, Andre Ribeiro, Alex Zanardi, Adrian Fernandez, and of course Paul Tracy, our pole sitter, did not start the race due to an injury. Now, we had an interesting moment yesterday in practice as Mauricio Gugelmin, in trying to get the absolute most out of his car, there you see Gugelmin, crashed. The left front corner broke loose. The tire flew over the wall and into the lagoon, Lake Tacoma. But we had a City of Detroit scuba diver standing by who swam out and was able to stand up when he retrieved the tire. Actually, that action took place on Friday. Either way, it was a very entertaining moment. We anticipate a green flag this time around. There's Mauricio Gugelmin, who has a new mark on his resume after launching the tire into Lake Tacoma. Hiro Matsushita is on the point with race leader Greg Moore just behind him as we come down to the green flag. We're past the halfway mark in this race. And Dario Frankitti, with that late stop due to the problem with his refueling mechanism, should be able to go the rest of the way on the load of fuel in the car.
Well, Hiro's certainly not holding up. He was not holding up. And he tried too hard. Got in there too hot under braking, almost lost it. Look at this. Oh.
Now he'll have to be careful getting back on. Meanwhile, up front, Moore, DeFerrin, Moreno, Andretti, and Gugelmin run nose to tail.
And I was just about to make the comment that he wasn't holding anybody up, and then he had his moment.
Race leader Greg Moore in the blue and white car, followed by Gilles DeFerrin in the predominantly red, white, and blue machine. Roberto Moreno in red runs third. Through turns 10 and 11. Then 12. Up to full speed now. A great view from our Honda Helicam. Turn 13. Through 14 on the tree-shaded Sunset Drive. A week ago, Greg Moore and the Forsyth Racing Team won on superbly controlled pit strategy. He got a tremendous break when the yellow came out just when he needed to pit here in Detroit.
Look at Roberto Moreno slide that car through turn 3. He was completely sideways there.
Big twist of the steering wheel as he scrambles for grip.
See that? He just jumps it out sideways under the throttle, cranks in that opposite lock. He's thrown this thing all over the place.
Moreno, running third, is right behind Gilles DeFerrin. And just behind Moreno is his teammate Michael Andretti.
Oh, and we have a car off. Michel Jourdain into the tire.
This is in turn 7, where they come onto the backstretch and get on the throttle hard. He has nosed it pretty much straight in from the look of it. Kart safety team worker there to have a look, see if the front wheels are badly damaged, the suspension parts and the front wing. No caution flags from the flag stand. Looking for a local yellow.
And they're only a couple of corners away from that spot. They'll go up this short straightaway.
There you see
There's
the flag.
A yellow. Ooh. They had pulled him out of that tire wall and had pulled him back up in that gap there. So there was no reason to go full course yellow.
There you see the damage to the nose of the car. Something caught underneath, perhaps.
Oh, it's a course worker. That's a course worker. That's one of the safety crew in the yellow suit. He's up and around. Obviously, when they were pulling him back, he probably got caught with the tire and it pulled him down underneath the car. Those guys are tough. Look at that. They'd be on the All-Madden team.
Tough and brave. Here's another look. You see, he was riding the car off of the wall, a member of the kart safety team, and then fell to the ground, and the right front wheel trapped his legs under him. Wow. Bobby Rahal now running in 9th place. There's Dario Frankitti with Christian Danner in the car normally occupied by Paul Jasper for Peyton Coyne Racing. Meanwhile, there's P.J. Jones and the predominantly white All-American Racers Reynard for Dan Gurney. Frankitti runs in 16th. P.J. Jones is 17th. And damage to the nose of Frankitti's car as he turns onto one of the fastest parts of the track. Let's see if we can see what happened. You see Frankitti.
That's very quick right there. He's doing about 170 miles an hour. Locks up a tire going into that first corner.
Wonder if he had contact with Christian Danner. That front wing is critically important to the downforce and the car balance.
It is, but the biggest concern is if that piece comes off, goes under the tire and cuts a tire. The aerodynamics are not as important around here as they are on a faster track. The question is whether kart safety officials will actually black flag him for that hanging off there for a safety issue.
Young Scotsman is going to continue on his way. He can't afford to stop right now. Boy, that car must be a handful with that damage to the front wing. Meanwhile, Bobby Rahal and Parker Johnstone locked in battle. This is for 8th place. Brian Herta, Rahal's teammate, just behind. And behind Herta is Raul Boisel. These cars all running for position. 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. There you see how the gap has varied over the last 3 laps. Tremendous battle in mid-pack. Let's go down to the pit lane and Jack LaRue.
Well, Scott Pruitt has changed into his civvies because since he came out of the car, a lot happened out on pit road. Engine problems. Did you isolate what exactly it was?
Well, it was something terminal, something inside. We don't know exactly what, but unfortunately enough to take us out of the race. And it's real disappointing. I mean, it's really heartfelt because the car was running good. We felt the Firestones were going to be real good today, and Brahma, you know, we've had our ups and downs the last few weeks. We felt this was, you know, a good chance for us to make that breakthrough and get the ball rolling again, and unfortunately.
What about the track conditions, Scott? How are they?
They were pretty good. They changed a little bit. They're getting more and more rubber put down, and with that, the car was picking up some more understeer. I was just kind of pacing myself off of Gilles, and I think he was just kind of watching what I was doing, just letting the laps go by. But overall, the track's in great shape.
Bob?
All right, thank you, Jack. Nose to tail infighting on the backside of the racetrack. Parker Johnstone and Bobby Rahal. Low revs. You need a lot of torque to get off those corners. There's Brian Herta from nearby Warren, Michigan. He is just thrilled over the success of the Red Wings. And there is Juan Fangio II driving for Dan Gurney with Toyota power. They have struggled, and look at his progress. From 22nd, he is up to 12th. And keep in mind that a week ago on the Milwaukee Mile, Fangio was 8th quickest in the morning warm-up before mechanical problems failed him in the race. So that program is coming on. Nephew of the maestro, the 5-time Formula One world champion, Juan Manuel Fangio. Juan Fangio II has driven for Dan Gurney for a long time. Gurney, for his part, celebrates a couple of key events this year. 30 years since he won the Belgian Grand Prix. First American to win a Formula One race in a car of his own construction. And of course, that amazing victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans driving for Ford with A.J. Foyt. There's Greg Moore, who had not led a lap this year until 2 races ago at Gateway International in St. Louis. Then Milwaukee, where he won. Now he leads here in Detroit. 3 races in a row with 1 victory. And there is Gilles de Ferran, the pole meister on temporary circuits. He has 4 All of them have come on temporary circuits. 2 at Long Beach, 1 here in Detroit, 1 at the Burke Lakefront Airport course in Cleveland. And then Moreno. Michael Andretti. Mauricio Gugelmin. And behind Gugelmin, his teammate Mark Blundell. They run 5th and 6th. Hiro Matsushita, after that lurid moment while leading the pack on the racetrack, is now wobbling home. We'll be back with more from Detroit in just a moment. Stay with us. At the Raceway on Belle Isle, and we have yellow flags out around the racetrack. Our 5th full course caution of the day, and the reason is right there. Hiro Matsushita has lost the fire on the straightaway, and immediately Greg Moore, the race leader, ducks into the pits. Jack Arute awaits him.
Awaiting Greg Moore's appearance on the end of pit road. Now Moore is pitting way down at the end, will hit the marks. Now, they should not have to take on a whole lot of fuel because they felt with an additional caution they could have literally made this a one-stop race. He lights it up fuel only. They elected not to change the tires. One thing to remember, let's check with Gary.
Well,
DeFerrin is pitted.
Yeah, Jack DeFerrin came and has gone, and he went for fuel and tires. Next door, Michael Andretti and the Newman Haas team, they went fuel only. They'll stay on the existing rubber.
Gary, let's update you too. On the Firestone tires, the biggest difference between the optional and the primary tire, according to Al Spire and Firestone, is that the optional was built in Japan and the primary tire was built in the United States. They say compound-wise, they're about the same. Structure-wise, they're a little bit different between the two.
On the backstretch now, out of turn 7, past Lake Tacoma, scene of Gilles DeFerrin's tire drowning incident. DeFerrin runs behind the car right now, the safety car that is, with his teammate Mark Blundell just behind him. There you see Gugelmin looking for his first win in the series.
Now we've got all kinds of strategies that played out. Some people stopped for fuel, some didn't, some changed tires, and some didn't. This is going to be an exciting finish. And look at that, just going out of our picture was Dario Frankitti. Still had that bodywork dangling off his left front nose.
Coming around to complete lap 52. Christian Danner goes for a tear off of his visor and some clear vision. 1 lap to go. Greg Moore has pitted twice. Mauricio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell up front in the queue have pitted but once. Behind them, Jimmy Vasser, Bobby Rahal have pitted twice. Patrick Carpentier runs 3rd. He has only stopped once. Moore, Andretti, Frankitti, Moreno, DeFerrin, all of the cars behind them with at least 2 stops. Gugelmin, Blundell, and Carpentier up front did not stop, which helps explain their position and their strategy.
I think they're hoping for another yellow.
You can be sure they're hoping for another yellow. Time to roll the dice with 52 laps complete of 77 scheduled. From high overhead, the Goodyear blimp Spirit of Akron hovers over Belle Isle. You can find out what it's like on the inside of a Goodyear blimp. That and many more questions about all of the Goodyear blimps in the fleet are answered on the Goodyear website, www.goodyear.com. Check it out. Gugelmin from the bottom of your screen, Blundell, Carpentier, Moore, and Andretti, and you ride with Michael Andretti. Everyone preparing for the battle to be rejoined when the green flag comes out. We expect no more pit stops from the top cars with the exception of Gugelmin, Blundell, and Carpentier. The question is, will they be green or yellow flag stops?
Well, don't forget, the teams that just stopped, they don't have to stop from this point out. Some people took a different strategy, but the ones that fueled up, they can go all the way to the green. Sorry.
The safety car is off. Mauricio Gugelmin leads the field to the green flag. Underway once again on lap 54. 23 laps remaining. Could this be the day for Mauricio Gugelmin to break through for the Pac West team, or his teammate right there, Mark Blundell? The Englishman with Formula One experience, whose introduction to the sport has been so rough. The big crash at Rio a year ago. Several crashes this year as well. And there is Patrick Carpentier, the rookie sensation, leader in the Friends of Jim Truman rookie standings by 26 points to 5 for Dario Franchitti. There is Greg Moore, the youngest winner in series history, coming off a huge victory over Michael Andretti, with whom you ride 1 week ago on the Milwaukee Mile. Behind Andretti, it's Dario Franchitti trying to keep pace with Carpentier, his rookie rival. Roberto Moreno is 7th, Gilles de Ferran 8th, Jimmy Vasser 9th, Al Unser Jr. is 10th. You ride with Roberto Moreno. Gary Gerald.
Just on that last stop for Moreno, he did get fresh tires and a full load of fuel. His teammate Michael Andretti, hoping that they could be a little bit quicker, got a couple of positions ahead because he did not change tires. So different strategy in the Newman-Haas camp. And again, Gilles de Ferran at this end of the pit, same situation. He went for tires and fuel as well.
Last pit stop for the top 3 runners was on lap 34. That's 20 laps ago. Jack Arute.
And Bob, let's update you. Right now, the wisdom from Carl Hogan's team for Dario Franchitti is they will go the distance without a stop. That would make them, in essence, a 1.5 stop team. Remember, they had to come back in and take on more fuel, but they've done fuel conservation. We talked about the top of the start. And it looks like, though he has a problem with the left front wing, they want to keep him out here. So he could, by succession, make his way back to the front of the field as some of the other guys come in to take on fuel.
Yeah, you can see that left front wing right there. The right side of your screen just hanging off. I don't know what's keeping it on there. And that's got to be a concern. I'm surprised somewhat that CART hasn't decided that's a safety issue, because if that gets into the tire, that could cut that tire down so quickly.
They will now, Danny, that you brought it up. You can be sure of that.
Well, I don't want them to do that. They're obviously monitoring it.
Amazing that it's just hanging on like that, flapping around. By one connector, perhaps. These cars are tough.
If he knew, maybe he could just drive it up there close to one of the curves and knock it off.
Ooh, flapping wildly there. Now we understand there will be a black flag for Dario Franchitti, who had such high hopes of gaining ground on Patrick Carpentier for Rookie of the Year. There he is in the line. A hard-earned 6th place. And his number goes up from the start-finish line with the black flag. I wonder if Roberto Moreno is aware of Franchitti's situation as he closes up on his gearbox in the corners.
Well, he would have seen the black flag, and he'll know his number, so he'll know I have to stop. But I tell you, Roberto Moreno stopped for new tires, and you can see him. He's still driving that car for all it's worth, sliding it down in the corners, watching him do a little correction.
folks. It takes him back to his days driving racing karts in Brazil when he was a teammate to another name of note, Nelson Piquet, the 3-time Formula One world champion. There you see how the battle for 6th has varied. The race leader is Mauricio Gugelmin. Second race that Big Mo has led this year. He also led at the Rio 400 in Rio de Janeiro. Green flag average speed just under 99 miles an hour. Here comes Frankitti. Jackaroo.
Now what the team has done is they've got a nose ready and positioned. They'll exchange noses. Watch the crew member on the driver's left side. He has a pneumatic jack. He's beginning to take those screws out. Both front crew members are actually doing it. They will then take the nose and insert it. In the meantime, they've gone ahead and changed tires. One crew member is going to be changing the tire. No sense just pulling the wing flap off, because it would have created still a handling problem. So take the extra time and replace the nose. They're having a little bit of a problem doing it, though. So, Bob, it's going to take some time, but they will get back out.
All right, thank you, Jack. Jimmy Vasser runs 8th with Al Unser Jr. and Raul Boisel behind him. And there's Frankitti coming back out, but he has lost a lot of ground.
I think I would have just had him take that piece off. His car was handling fine as it was. He was running with everybody. Aerodynamics around this track is not as important as some fast track. I would have gone with it and just pulled the piece off.
You look back from Jimmy Vasser's car and Al Unser Jr. Boisel looking for a way by Unser. Some very rough-looking rear tires came off the back of Unser's car on his pit stop. It must not be handling the way he would like. There's Parker Johnstone in 11th place. Behind him, Bobby Ray Hall in 12th. Bobby Ray Hall will take a timeout and return live to the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. Stay right there. Next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Central on ABC Wide World of Sports, the Valvoline Professional Boxing Series. Virgil Hill against Darius Mikulszewski for the light heavyweight championship. Plus, from South Africa, the Raid Galois, the Human Endurance Challenge. If you like the Ironman, you'll love the Raid Galois. Back here at Gateway, Roberto Moreno continues to wrestle with his car in 6th place in the Detroit Grand Prix. He runs behind his teammate, Michael Andretti.
Just before this shot, he actually got up alongside of him, coming out onto the straightaway.
Walter Salas for Davis Racing is slow on the backstretch. Salas's problem might be, if you watch the front runners, interesting to note we have 2 German drivers in the series for the first time ever. Christian Danner and Arndt Meyer. Danner runs in 16th position, Meyer in 20th, which provides a neat segue to the fact that Mercedes, the German automaker, has extended its sponsor relationship with the PPG Kart World Series to the year 2000. Gugelmin leads his teammate Mark Blundell. Jack Arute has more on Dario Frankitti's troubles.
Well, Danny, I found out the answer about why they didn't just pull the wing off, as you had suggested. Their wisdom was, remember, they were really rolling the dice on fuel. Well, hey, we can take a full load of fuel, change tires, and still be able to make that change of the front wing. Unfortunately, they lost 3 of the pins, the retaining pins. They rolled out when they replaced the wing, so it took a lot longer. Gary?
As for Patrick Karthikeyan and the Tony Bettenhausen team, they took the gamble. They kept their driver out. They're running in a top 3 position, but they just told us we definitely are going to have some help, meaning we need yellow. At least 3 or 4 laps of yellow, and they think they could flirt with going all the way. But again, now, time running out as we get to the final 15 laps.
A big twitch from the rear end of Greg Moore's car as he tries to deal with Patrick Karthikeyan.
Well, he wants to get around him, but Patrick Karthikeyan is driving that car for all it's worth. He's using up quite a bit of road as well. Both those guys, their tires are probably going a little bit off. They didn't stop and change tires, as did Michael Andretti.
That was one of our stories at the top of the show. Track position is everything. And look at the tire rubber just bouncing on the racing line. Tires have been the story. Fuel is a story yet to play out as we work lap number 63 of 77. Look at that line of cars running nose to tail behind the Pac West teammates. Remember, they have only stopped once. Jack Arute has more on them.
And right now, Bob, they are trying, Pac West, for both Blundell and Gugelmin, they're trying to see if they could go without having to stop again. They, as Gary reported for Karthikeyan, feel they need at least 1 or 2 more laps of yellow. So with 15 laps to go, they're running out of yellow opportunities. So what they're doing now is fuel management, going up and down clicks on what they call the fuel mapping on board the car. But they are going to run it right down to the end.
Patrick Karthikeyan leads Greg Moore. Total career victories among our top 3 runners right now, 0. Last week in Milwaukee, we had a first-time winner in Greg Moore. Could we have another one here today in Detroit? Karthikeyan with some wide lines through those corners. That must be tantalizing for Greg Moore. With all of these yellow flags, we have 18 cars still on the lead lap of the 27 that started.
And Bob, look at them. Not only 18 cars, but they're almost all nose to tail, dicing for a spot.
Down through the sequential gearbox, through turns 13 and 14. Michael Andretti on the throttle. Oh, Karthikeyan all over that racing line.
He's taking it in there deep under braking, gets the car a little twitchy, but he's holding on to it. He's doing a great job.
There's the gap in the battle for third place between Karthikeyan and Moore. Blundell about 1.5 seconds ahead of this battle in second place. And Gugelmin, his teammate, another 1.5 seconds ahead of Blundell.
And Bob, remember, more of the front runners does not have to come back in for fuel. They have fulfilled their fuel obligations. They've got plenty on board.
Nor does Michael Andretti, who's right behind him. And right behind him on fresher tires is Moreno, and he doesn't need to stop for fuel.
Michael Andretti might be wondering, what do I have to do to get around this guy? There's Gugelmin, there's Blundell at the bottom of your screen, then Karthikeyan, Moore, Andretti, Moreno, and Gilles de Ferran in the red, white, and blue Valvoline car, looking for a way around Moreno. Coming around to complete lap 65.
Look at that. That's all for place. Every one of those cars is dicing for a spot.
It's a warm day here in Detroit. The drivers have been working hard.
Everybody waiting for the other guy to make a mistake, hoping to take advantage of it.
For the better part of 2 hours, they have had to have complete precision in where they place the car. This is our Honda Helicam trying to pace the cars along Sunset Drive, and it can't do it. Excuse me, that's the Strand turning into turn 8 and 9.
Don't forget, at that spot, they're doing about 180 miles an hour down that back straightaway.
Great views of a huge crowd on hand here on Belle Isle.
Looks like more and more Maurizio Gugelmin and Mark Blundell are coming into the picture. That means if they're trimming their fuel back, they're running a little bit more conservatively. These guys are closing in on ever so slowly.
Keep in mind, the drivers can control the fuel flow and the fuel efficiency. They'll be working hard with their pits. What position should we be in to try to keep the revs where they need to be to keep me ahead of the guy behind me?
And those moments get pretty heated because the engineer's telling them to turn it down, and they're going, I can't, I've got somebody behind me. So it's, you know, very frustrating.
And Danny, here's what's going on in the radio communication with Gugelmin. His crew is telling him, slow down just a little bit. They aren't going to be able to pass you anyways. Remember, we've talked about it throughout the day. This is a narrow place, a concrete canyon. As we look at Patrick Carpentier in the battle there with Greg Moore. But Gugelmin getting some coaching from here on pit road.
And Jack, the word has just gone out. Carpentier is going to have to pit. They've gone over the wall. They're ready for him.
Boy, is that frustrating when you're sitting there waiting for that yellow. Please, we had so many in the beginning. Give me one here late.
That's right. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I just want someone to get out there in a position where they have to throw the yellow. They do not. And Patrick Carpentier, the leader in the Rookie of the Year standings, comes in. His crew waves him down. Let's see how
on the marks. Oh, the car having to back it up. They weren't perfect on the marks. The fuel hole still won't stretch. He's too far from the wall. This is a disaster. Carpentier throws his hands up in frustration. The crew cranks at the wheel. They're trying to get him close enough. Now they've got him close enough, and they seat the fuel connection. But that took 18 seconds alone to get to that stage. Now they disengage and he's rolling 26 and a fraction seconds. Oh, my.
With a smoky burnout worthy of Big Daddy Don Garlits, Patrick Carpentier vents his anger as he gets back onto the racetrack after a disastrous pit stop just too far away from the fuel tank. What a disappointment for Patrick Carpentier. Meanwhile, we ride with Michael Andretti now up into 4th place. Greg Moore ahead of him right there in the blue and white car is in 3rd. Following Gugelmin and Blundell. And the question is, which of the Pac West teammates will pit first, if either, in fact, will do so?
And this group that's got the fuel that's running their mixture up, they're really closing down on those leading 2 Pac West cars.
9 laps to go. Slower traffic up ahead for the race leaders. Gilles de Ferran is in 6th place. There's Mauricio Gugelmin. There's Mark Blundell in blue and orange, and then Greg Moore.
Greg Moore doesn't look like he even wants to wait for that. He's going to go ahead and take a chance and pass him. He's got to be careful going offline. You see all those marbles out there. Very, very slippery.
And Michael Andretti just behind Moore.
With all these guys bunched up like this, one little slip, sliding out a little wide, and you can lose 5 or 6 spots.
Look at the rubber bits flying everywhere on the backstretch. Right out to the wall with the left side wheels. Eight laps to go.
Greg Moore's going to take a look. But it looked like Mark Blundell had smoke coming off of his rear tire, locking up a rear.
You have valuable championship points in hand. Do you risk all of them by trying to make a pass on this hockey rink of a racing surface?
The problem is, as you say, those points are at stake. You've got to be careful what you do in front of you because it could result in a couple of guys getting by you from behind.
If you don't find yourself in a tire wall or up against the unforgiving concrete. Race leader Gugelmin to the right of your screen. Slower traffic up ahead. Jack Arute has more on him.
And that traffic, gentlemen, comes into play with Gugelmin's battle plan. They have told him, try and go around the traffic slowly. Make it difficult to pass, but back off as much as possible. Their calculations on pit road say Gugelmin can just make it, but on vapors.
One of the slower cars, Arndt Meyer, dives for the pit lane, but Hiro Matsushita is still out ahead of our race leader with 7 laps to go. And we saw what happened when Matsushita was pressed by the race leaders earlier. Down the inside goes Gugelmin and takes, and gets around Matsushita. He doesn't take a position from him. And now everyone gets by, it would appear, cleanly. Look at this line of traffic. And Matsushita is out there in front of Al Unser Jr. Unser Jr. runs 8. And now he is around the Japanese driver. Raul Boisel is around him. Parker Johnstone is around him.
The real problem for him is there's no place for him to go to get out of their way.
Here Michael Andretti's rear tires scrambling for grip. There will be 6 laps to go next time under the start-finish flag stand. Gugelmin and Blundell, who have yet to produce a race victory between them for car owner Bruce McCaw. Could they go 1 and 2 today for Pac West? Greg Moore. No, he had a look around Blundell. Paul Tracy, the points leader, is not in the race. Michael Andretti, second in points, runs in 4th place. Alex Zanardi, 3rd in points, coming into this 8th round of the season, is not in the race. Greg Moore, tied for 4th place with Scott Pruitt, is running 3rd. Scott Pruitt is out. There's Parker Johnstone going slowly. Johnstone from 9th place pulls the car aside. And you see the smoke coming from under the back end of the car. What a disappointment for Team Green. Meanwhile, back up front. The running order is Gugelmin, Blundell, Moore, Andretti, Moreno, DeFerrin, Vassar, Al Unser Jr., Raul Boisel, and Bobby Rahal. There is Bruce McCaw.
Boy, he looks so calm on the outside, but I can tell you that stomach must be churning with anxiety. He saw Parker stop. He's probably going, oh, yellow. Let's get a yellow out there. Give us a little break.
Bruce McCaw is a tremendous automotive enthusiast. He has a wonderful fleet of cars, including a BRM driven in Monaco in the Formula One race by the late Graham Hill.
And he raced himself this weekend here in the Neon Challenge.
He is a true enthusiast. He has poured a lot of effort and personal resources into this Pac West team. He built a business empire. Now he wants to build a racing empire, and his cars are 1st and 2nd. DeFerrin looks up the inside of Moreno. In the Detroit Grand Prix. There's no stopping now for either Gugelmin or Blundell. Ooh, DeFerrin once again tries Moreno.
Takes a look, but that's a very quick corner there.
Jimmy Vassar in 7th. That's Gilles DeFerrin up ahead. You can see just how narrow the racetrack is, how blind the corners are. Back up front. Onto Sunset Drive comes Gilles DeFerrin with Mark Blundell and Greg Moore behind him. And once again, DeFerrin tries Roberto Moreno. Oh, look at this. Oh, the wheel inside. Oh, is that tight? Oh, the wheel. And DeFerrin takes the position. And Jimmy Vasser comes up the inside of Roberto Moreno as well, who loses 2 positions on the racetrack in 1 corner. 3 laps to go. De Ferran is now 5th. Vasser is 6th. Moreno is 7th.
That was great driving on both drivers' part. Very professional to be able to race that close together and not have an incident.
Oh, absolutely. That left front wheel of De Ferran's. I kept waiting for the tire smoke as it rubbed on Moreno's bodywork. And keep in mind, the wheels are then interlocked. If rubber touches rubber, we could have a disaster. Gugelmin on the left, Blundell on the right. And Blundell, somewhat slower than his teammate, still nursing that fuel mileage. Greg Moore is coming up from behind. There will be 2 laps to go next time by. Mauricio Gugelmin leads them across the start-finish stripe. 2 laps to go. Gugelmin's best finish, a 2nd place, and he's done it several times. Mark Blundell behind him has never been on a podium. The only driver in the top 10 as they run right now who has never taken a step onto a podium in the PPG Kart World Series. But he may get one today. He's in the silver medal position behind his teammate. And there is Greg Moore. To 3rd place at the very minimum if he finishes in 3rd. 3rd place in points in the championship as we approach the midway point of the season. Approximately 3 miles remaining for the Pac West teammates.
Look back there, Michael Andretti. De Ferran was taking a look at him too. Michael said, "You're not having any of that. You did it to my teammate, you're not doing it to me."
Here comes the white flag for the Pac West teammates, Gugelmin and Blundell. Final lap of the Detroit Grand Prix. 2 miles to go.
Do they have enough fuel?
Do they have the fuel? Do they have the tires? Do they have the stamina and the judgment? On to the strand. How much throttle can... And Gugelmin slows. Blundell bursts into the lead as his teammate slows out of fuel. And now Greg Moore has a decision to make. I could have passed him for 2nd. Can I pass him for my 2nd consecutive lead? Bruce McCaw and the team looking on. It's all in the hands of Mark Blundell.
He's only got 2 corners to go.
Blundell in the middle of the racetrack. Defensive position. Michael Andretti doing the same in what is now 3rd place. And Blundell slows. Moore is at the lead. Blundell is out of fuel. And it has all come apart for the Pac West teammates. Victory, 2nd straight win for Greg Moore. Michael Andretti 2nd, Gilles de Ferran unofficially 3rd, and Jimmy Vasser a near thing in 4th. Is it possible that 1st and 2nd place run out of fuel on the last lap?
But that's exactly what happened. Both teams ran out of fuel. They were just a couple of 1,000 yards short of going to victory lane.
And there is Mark Blundell, who rolls to a stop that far from the checkered flag. And he throws the steering wheel out of the car. The frustration is all world for Mark Blundell. We'll be back to the Detroit Grand Prix after this message and a word from our ABC station. Next, the first of 4 rounds of the International Race of Champions from Daytona International Speedway, immediately following our coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix. down to Jack Arute with our winner.
Well, Greg Moore, congratulations. You've gotten the congratulations from Mercedes, from your dad. What did your dad tell you?
Oh, my dad just said, good job. You know, it's, you know, this is the team's win, this one. I mean, we stretched it out on it was Steve Chalice's call to leave the Firestones on for, you know, I think we left them on for, you know, over half the race there, and I think that's really what won us the race, was the pit position there.
Now, what about near the end? Blundell and Gugelmin in front of you. What was the conversations back and forth on pit road with your team?
2 laps from the end, they said, well, if you get a possibility, you know, a good chance to pass, you better do it, because we think they might be able to go. And then I saw Maurizio bobble, and then down the end of the back, I saw Mark, and I thought, wow, I just can't believe this. This is unbelievable.
At 22 years old, we've said you're the youngest winner, and now a Canadian that wins, now so much on your shoulders. I mean, can it stop? I mean, where does this all end for you?
Let's hope it never stops. I just love this. This is beautiful. I love it.
Well, congratulations to you, Greg. Let's check in with Gary Gerald. Gary.
Well, you see the fuel cell, it needed less than a half gallon of fuel, and this man would have been on the podium with a victory. Mark Blundell, have you ever had a more crushing experience in your motor racing career?
I don't think so, and I mean, you know, I keep talking to a few of my friends, and I keep saying, you know, I've got a lot of bad luck at the moment, and it's going to turn, but today wasn't the day either. I'm just really upset because the team did a fantastic job all weekend. We've been really strong, and I take my hat off to them. They made the gamble, and it nearly paid off. You know, we were only 1 corner away, but, you know, that's racing.
Tell us what it was like, what you were trying to do, because you had to be aggressive, yet you had to be defensive, and you try to conserve fuel at the same time.
Yeah, I had a tough job because I had to keep on the back of Maurizio because I knew he was in the same situation, and if I was pressuring him, he may make a mistake or run out earlier, than which he did. And then I had to be defensive because Carpentier and Moore were on my backside. Plus, I had to save fuel at the same time, so it was difficult. The thing what really got me as well was my right-hand wing mirror came away, and I had no vision in the right side. So, you know, I may have been a little bit defensive there, but that's because I couldn't see.
Well, I guess the encouraging thing is this team, once again, has proved you can be competitive, and you're so close to getting there.
We're going to get there. You know, don't worry. It's not a case of how, it's just a case of when.
He's amazingly optimistic considering what he's been through in the last few minutes, Jack.
Let's check in with the silver medalist today, Michael Andretti. I'll tell you what, it all unfolded in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, we knew it would. I mean, there was no way they could make it on fuel. If they would, I would have been really surprised. And this time there was no yellows for them.
Now, when you know that, do you do anything different in the cockpit of the car? Do you press a little harder, maybe?
No, I was just trying to hang on to my position. DeFerran was all over me in the end, and I barely was able to hold them off because I had no more rear tires left.
Tire wear was critical here.
Big time critical.
Bob?
What a struggle. I've never seen anything like it. Greg Moore comes through for his 2nd consecutive win, the 5th in a row for a Canadian driver. On the PPG Kart World Series, Michael Andretti finishes 2nd, Gilles de Ferran 3rd, but that's just the beginning of the story. We'll be back.
Brought to you by Avalanche.
Well, we've seen some wild, dramatic shakeouts in races thus far this season. Another one today on Belle Isle, and here's another of the principals. Roberto Moreno, I'm sure you feel good because in what is slated to be your last drive for Newman Haas, you get a 5th place spot. But what a scramble at the end. Nobody really knew what was going to happen.
Well, we had a little clue what was going to happen. It was really up to who had the best tires towards the end. And we were looking good for a good podium at the end. Our tires started to give up, and the back was really bad to hang on to it. But I'll take 5th spot. It was fantastic. They came out. Budweiser team did a fantastic job for me, and I hope I'll be back sometime, maybe in the future, IndyCars, either a short future or a long future.
Do you feel like you've proved something here with this opportunity to run for this team, that you can run with the best?
I think it was very good for me. I think that's is up to you to say, and everybody that see me racing. So it was good racing today. I think once my confidence is really 100%, which is not yet, it's only 90%, I think I'll be up front fighting really hard to win races.
That's Roberto Moreno, and right here on the bike in a very crowded and busy pit lane is Jimmy Vassar, who was also there. He congratulates Roberto Moreno. Tell me about your day and this wild finish and how it all kind of shook out.
Well, we had a good race car, you know. We started picking them off slowly, and Roberto was running well, and Jill put kind of a risky move on him, put them both in jeopardy, and but he pulled it off, and it put Roberto in a tough spot, and I was able to slide by. And then obviously the Pac West cars with the fuel there, they went quite a bit farther than I thought they should go. So, you know, they really stretched that fuel.
Did this day turn out to be what you imagined it would be on a very tight and demanding circuit at Belle Isle?
Yeah, it's been just like this all the other years. Very difficult to pass. You know, you get somebody up front that's not running that quick, and it gets real single file, packed up behind them. But you know, I'm happy for my target Chip Ganassi team and getting the points that we did. And too bad for my teammate Zanardi to be out so early. I think he could have done real well today too.
You were about to get run over by Walter Payton. I know that's intimidating. He's out of here. Jack.
Gary, this man here will probably go what if, could if, only if for several years. Bruce McCaw, give us the thinking on going on one stop.
Well, we went into the race thinking a one-stop strategy might be the way to go. We knew the tires would do it, and we knew that we were real close on fuel. We needed some help with some yellows, but historically this track has a fair number of yellows. Early in the race, it seemed to be going our way. When we pitted lap 34, it looked like we knew we were right on the edge. We kept watching it, and we were saving fuel, and we knew we were gaining on it a lot, and we had a pretty good shot at it.
Now, you say this strategy was developed this morning back in the trailer. Now, who makes those sorts of calls? You?
No, the whole team works together on these, and you know, again, it's one of those things you have to think about it during the race and see which way you end up going, but it looked like maybe a pretty good call, and we were right on the ragged edge. I mean, early in the stint, we knew we needed another 4 or 5 laps of yellow. I mean, we half a gallon of gas, we would have made it home with both cars, but it was close.
Now, your neck was stretched almost all the way out onto pit road when they dropped that white flag. Describe the emotions. First, when it looked like not only were you going to have a first-place finish, but a second-place finish. What did that feel like for those couple of moments? We'll talk about the rest afterwards.
I was pretty apprehensive. I mean, I think I stopped breathing when the white flag came out, and, you know, we knew we were right on the ragged edge, and it was looking good right towards the end. But.
And then Mauricio fades. Did you think that Blundell might have had enough?
It looked like it. It looked like it. He was, you know, it looked like he'd saved a little bit more fuel, although we lost the telemetry in his car, so we didn't know exactly where we were right at the end on his car, but we knew we were just within ounces. So.
And Bob, you talked about this fellow was racing. He sat on the pole position for his race today, and he spun and had to come from the back as well. So it's not been a good day for the Pac West team, but they sure gave it a valiant try.
All right, thanks, guys. As they say, that's racing. What a day here in Detroit. Our thanks to the folks from the Honda Helicam for giving us some astonishing views from above Belle Isle. A look at our entire field. Second victory in a row for young Greg Moore, who, had he not won a week ago, would still rate as the youngest winner in the history of the PPG Kart World Series. There you see 7th through 12th. Al Unser Jr. came home in 8th position and stalled on the cool-down lap. He had to be towed in. Keep in mind there'll be a big shake-up in the points. Alex Zanardi, in the thick of the championship hunt, went off at the very first corner, and Scott Pruitt finishing in 24th position. He too was a championship contender. In the point standings, Paul Tracy retains his lead, but he did not race today. Michael Andretti is in second place, and Greg Moore is coming up the charts with a bullet following his second consecutive victory. We'll take a timeout and be back with more from the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. Stand by for more on a great day at Belle Isle. The International Race of Champions from Daytona International Speedway, following our coverage of the Detroit Grand Prix. We continue with post-race commiseration here in Detroit. Here's Gary Gerald.
Patrick Carpentier started this day way back, and then because they elected to roll the dice and stay out and see if they'd get more yellow, you were a top 3 man for a long, long time. And I'm wondering, from a confidence standpoint for a rookie, is this a big step for you, proving that you could run and hold off the top contenders in this series?
It's a huge step, you know, because the last 3 races were not competitive at all on these circuits, and now I ran with them, and I could hold the pace, and I was actually catching up a little bit on Gugelmin or Blundell. Then sometimes he'd leave and I'd catch up, but I could keep the pace. I was really happy. I think the team did a wonderful job with the pit stop to keep me there. Even if we kind of knew the chance was really slim to finish, they just wanted me to run with the leaders for a while, and I said, I think I cannot run with these guys, and he said, you stay there, you fight, and I think you can run. I just stood on the gas, and it was good. But I think from this weekend,
we've learned a lot. I come to these weekends on the street circuits very aggressive, and I cannot direct my engineer in which direction, and I think that has been costing us a lot, but it was good.
Another step up a very important learning curve. Jackaroo?
Well, 8th place goes to Al Unser Jr. I know it's not what you wanted, but a loose race car all day.
Yeah, we were fighting pretty much. The rear tires would go off on me there about 3/4 of a tank, and then, you know, we made that gamble with that long run there at the end, and the tires were just shot there at the end. But I'm really proud of the Marlboro crew. They did a great job, and you know, one of these days we'll get up there.
Bob, one of these days, believe me, he will be back on the podium.
And so the Penske team will have to wait for another race for their 100th victory. This was the scene on the backstretch as Gas felled first Mauricio Gugelmin, and moments later his teammate Mark Blundell. Danny Sullivan, we weren't sure coming into this race that fuel would be a problem. It turned out that it was.
Well, these road courses are so tough, it's always a problem. But what's really coming into play is not just the fuel, but the strategy of when you stop. The thing is, if you stop at this point and you take on fuel, you might make it to the end, you might not, depending on what happens later in the race. So it's not just a fuel race, it's when you take that fuel on.
And what a battle of opportunity. 18 cars running in a train at the end of the race. It couldn't be more exciting.
No, this was a great race all the way through. Everybody had a shot at it. Everybody was gambling. They were racing nose to tail at the end of the race. And how about Toyota? I think they got their first points in 10th and 11th spot.
It's a long way to go this year. 8 races down, 9 still to come. At the beginning of the season, we called it a book with 17 chapters. The first 8 have been outstanding. I'm sure the last 9 will be as well. Our next stop will be in Portland, Oregon in 2 weeks' time on June 22nd. You can catch that on ESPN. It's been a great weekend here in Detroit. The Stanley Cup resides at Joe Louis Arena. And once again, the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix has been a great one. For Danny Sullivan, Gary Gerald, and Jack Arute, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll leave you with a look at some of the high points of the race. So long from Detroit.